Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your OBC, your original Boruto Chief, Naruto Explained, bringing you guys the spoilers for Boruto TBV Vortex Chapter 35. And today, we got quite a bit to break down since this is the start of a brand new arc. We got betrayals, we got fandom wars breaking out, and we have an update with Jura and Hidari that includes a really cool Easter egg for all you hardcore Naruto fans if you caught on to it. And for the fans who started in Boruto, there's a super meta Easter egg as well if you purchase the physical copies of the manga volumes. As per usual, we'll be going over key things that stood out from the leaks, and if you don't hear me address it, it's because I'm saving it for the review when I have additional context, which the chapter drops on the 18th this month on Manga Plus, which is free to read, so we'll aim to get the release on that same date, which reminder, we do reviews. We do not do recaps and storytime read-alongs that mix in headcanon that gets labeled as a review like 99% of anime YouTube tries to pass off. A review goes over the material, looks at what worked, what didn't work, why it did so, gives critiques or praise where earned, offers context that might be needed by readers, and gives an opinion based on how this fits into the larger story and if the author intent worked. Lastly, don't forget to check out my new video on everything One Piece Explained and the in-depth video on Naruto's first ninja war. Both will be linked in the description box and in the end credits for those who are curious. So with the house cleaning out of the way, let's just jump into these spoilers. So first and foremost, the biggest thing in this chapter was definitely Amado regaining leverage over Kawaki, being bullied by the guy over the last couple arcs where he hanged the revival of his daughter over his head in exchange for power-ups. Amado brought Kawaki into the lab for the sole purpose of showing him how easy it is for Amado to raise Kawaki's power level as needed, saying Kawaki can switch from 100% offense to 100% defense at the drop of a dime, but it can only be done at Amado's discretion. It doesn't seem like much, but it is a bit of leverage for Amado because he can literally control Kawaki's strength output, and there are conditions, however, that need to be met. The scientific ninja tech toads that Amado has have to be placed on Kawaki's body, and as long as they're attached, Amado can raise his power as he sees fit. And since the toads are like Kashin Koji's toads, they can be shrank at will by Kawaki using the Sukuna Hikona, because they are not organic living toads. They are literal scientific ninja tools made from scratch, which means that Kawaki could shrink them down to 1 inch in size if he wants to. That way they can be placed on his body and nobody would know, but he still gets the benefits of his power level going up or down, which, love or hate Amado, that's pretty ingenious. However, the way that Amado also describes this is pretty clever as a throwback to the basic principles of Naruto that the Mamushi battles showed a very vocal section of fans seems to have forgotten, which is how chakra works and how the applications of chakra outside of ninjutsu purposes work in Naruto. Amado compared what he did to Kawaki's power level to chakra control, and he sends a jab at Kawaki indirectly by saying, since Kawaki hates all aspects of shinobi training, this is a fair trade-off, which is also a nice throwback to Naruto attempting to train Kawaki. Kawaki showed he had a decent grasp on using chakra when he climbed up the tree, but Naruto continuously had to remind him to mold his chakra instead of relying on his ninja tech and his Koma seal. And when Team 7 was being led by Sarada in training, it was meditation based training, which is part of the training needed to strengthen your yin chakra halves. That's part of how you raise your chakra levels. The toad controlling Kawaki's power in this way should make people complaining about the Mamushi fight recreate that Drake meme where they're looking at the laptop and then they start smacking their heads. You have to actively mold chakra for offensive and defensive purposes. The Chocho is Jigen level nonsense that people try to push, that's dead, because the battle IQ of Mamushi dropped low enough that he was not actively molding that chakra. It's the reason Naruto's Rasengan wasn't able to kill Kabuto in part 1 when he caught Kabuto off guard, because Kabuto quickly reinforced his chakra right before the Rasengan hit, and that's how he stayed alive from an attack that would have killed him otherwise. It's the reason Zetsu could do so much damage to Madara, because Madara let his guard down and Zetsu at that point took advantage of it. Just keep inserting moments from the series. This is not the only example. Ikimoto takes it a step further to further explore this by telling Kawaki that when he is controlling his power level, he'll redivert his chakra to 100% defensive whenever Kawaki isn't fighting, because it will protect him. If he's ever caught off guard, Kawaki will not die, because an off-guard attack can kill you if you don't have your defenses up, if you're not molding chakra fast enough for defensive purposes. Hence, the same Chocho who couldn't destroy the Mamushi clones earlier in the arc, before his intelligence dropped super low, was able to do so when their battle IQ dropped severely because he was using well over 200 clones. This also makes Boruto's words to Kawaki in chapter 15, a Two Blue Vortex, make a lot more sense now. He said in another timeline, Kawaki would have realized his power was limited by Amado and he would have unsealed Naruto and had him train him. Now we see the value that Naruto provides. Is Kawaki going back over chakra control because he primarily only uses Karma and Ninja Tech, which, reminder, anime Kawaki doing all those ninja missions that you're thinking about, that exists only in the anime continuity. The anime and manga are two different continuities. That's why you hear me say repeatedly, what happens in the anime, when you discuss it for the purposes of the manga, wipe your ass with it. That also goes back to why it doesn't matter that Kawaki got that stat boost that he did. He flamed out as quickly as he did because he burned through all that power so fast. So it's going to be very interesting to see this Amado and Kawaki dynamic. I love what Ikimoto is doing here, and it's a nice throwback to chapter 66. Kawaki was warned about trusting Amado too much. Now, in terms of why Amado did this, Amado basically used Kawaki to go after Kashin Koji to knock him unconscious and take possession of his body, which is the major WTF moment from this chapter and pays off the line that Kashin Koji had about wondering if he had a shutdown code. That's 7 years of payoff that is finally hit. This is also something we did discuss a couple months back on the channel in a video. If you use the search bar on YouTube and type in Naruto Explained, Amado is planning to take down Kashin Koji. Boruto does not know it. But like we said in that video, Amado, being the smart guy that he is, heard Kashin Koji explain 10 directions and discovered the weak point to the jutsu and was gonna want it for himself. It looks like that's the direction that this is going. This, of course, is a pretty big development because it directly changes everything moving forward. Because Amado came up with a plan to capture Koji during that shutdown period of 10 directions, where Amado knows that Kashin Koji doesn't know what's going to happen in the timeline, which is why Kashin Koji was caught off guard here. Sure, on one hand, it's a bit of luck on Amado's end because that's something that only exists in theory, but Amado has made a lot of educated guesses in the past, and those educated guesses have panned out. And Kashin Koji himself also should have known better than to trust someone as sketchy as Amado, but that goes back to character flaws and something that we have been repeatedly hammering home here on the channel for the last 2 years. Kashin Koji's reliance on 10 directions was going to bite him in the ass at one point, and it looks like it finally did. The benefit to something like this, it really depends on how Ikimoto takes this direction-wise. He could use it as an excuse to get Kashin Koji removed from the story, like we talked about in a video 2 days ago about why Kashin Koji does need to be removed from the story. I don't think that he's dying here, but Ikimoto did let us know that the clock is ticking on Kashin Koji, and there is a chance that he does not make it past this Shinju saga, which that is fine. That video will also be linked in the description box because I'm not going to repeat the talking points from a video that was literally updated and uploaded 2 days ago. This, of course, makes the plan that Boruto comes up with when he gets a chance to speak to Sarada one-on-one alone an even bigger of a gamble. You have to believe that when Boruto threw his kunai to speak to Sarada, part of that plan that he came up with was being able to cross-reference what happens in that Shinju dimension after Sarada gets captured. I like the direction here because this is potentially Ikimoto forcing Boruto to go in blind or being forced to adjust his plan moving forward. There's a bit of recklessness to the plan that he came up with Sarada, but the reason I like it is that this shows Boruto yet again treating Sarada like a true equal here, like he did during the first fight against Hidari. He's trusting in her strength, but we see the contrast between himself and Kashin Koji. To Kashin Koji, people are numbers, probabilities, variables, chess pieces. One gets moved and the other one comes in to deliver the finishing blow. Boruto does not operate that way. He's the byproduct of a completely different system. He comes from the bloodline of Naruto, the same way that Naruto demanded to know if Amado told Kashin Koji the mission against Jigen and then the fight against Ishiki was basically a suicide. Boruto was there, heard that question from his father, knew what it meant, and he is not sending Sarada into a battle without her knowing all the risks because, again, he is the product of a system known as Naruto Uzumaki and Konoha, and how Naruto groomed this current culture of Konoha in this era. Boruto does not subscribe to the theory that there are acceptable losses, but the manga is also teeing us up for more information later down the line too, because we clearly don't see all of Boruto's conversation with Sarada here, because Ikimoto cuts it off partway through. We'll obviously have to wait for later on to see it, which it'll likely be in the form of a flashback. And if so, that is fine. This is how you use flashbacks, because 40 pages a month, you basically have to take the approach that Attack on Titan did. Drop breadcrumbs and then finish the plot lines later. Now, I did find it interesting though that Boruto's Flying Raijin Jutsu got yet another weakness exposed to it, and I really appreciate this. Flying Raijin in the hands of Minato and Tobirama was a walking death sentence, because once you got marked, you're pretty much as good as dead. That mark does not come off unless you seal a biju inside of your body. Boruto's version has a weakness to it that directly offset Boruto being as strong as he is. So based on the chapter, it looks like Boruto isn't going to refine his Flying Raijin like I personally hope, which I'm not going to crash out. I'm not one of these immature people that gets upset when my headcanon doesn't take place. Instead, it looks like Boruto's going to be doubling down on it, and he's telling Sarada a weakness that we didn't know. If a person is holding onto his Flying Raijin marker, it's harder for Boruto to lock onto the chakra sealed into the marker. That's a really big deal. He tells Sarada to take the two markers that he gives her and to throw one of them away as soon as she gets to wherever code takes her. That way he'll be able to teleport. And again, I like this decision because it makes our favorite little genius more vulnerable, and with Kashin Koji being taken, it raises the stakes for the fight, especially if it continues to happen during the blind spot of 10 directions. There's a lot more that happens in this chapter that gets discussed, character interactions, and etc. It's a very dialogue heavy chapter, so the portion of the fandom that is reading for their favorite characters, aura farming, motion, power scaling, this is not going to be the chapter that gives you a tingling in your loins. This is a chapter that's going to require you to pay attention for longer than 2 seconds, because this is the start of an arc, and it is a setup chapter that puts several pieces in play while also paying off story details, small story details that in some cases were set up 7 to 8 years ago. Again, this chapter will be out on the 18th, and we'll aim for getting the review out on the day of the official release. In the meantime, click here for the first Ninja War video, or click here for the video for my Everything One Piece Explained channel.